This is Simon Benoit of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you're listening to the Ladies Talking Leafs podcast.
Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And we love that we get to talk about the Leafs going to the second round of the playoffs after winning their first round series versus the Ottawa Senators in 6 games. Round number 2 is going to be a much tougher opponent versus the Florida Panthers, and we're going to get into that in a bit. But first, we want to thank you for getting us to 400 subscribers on YouTube.
Yay! Thank you.
Woo, it only took one shot too.
Yeah. So special shout outs. We want to thank Dave Brandt, Nathan, JG Taylor, Crazy Kernuck 93 for subscribing to our channel and getting us over that hump. We also want to thank as well T Calderon 87 for the comment telling us they love our podcast and will definitely be watching for new episodes. So thank you so much, everyone, for helping us get over this milestone and for all of your kind comments. We really do appreciate our community there on YouTube. So anyway, wherever you are listening or watching our show, just hit that follow or subscribe button and you won't miss any episodes or content that we put out.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into the show, we want to tell you about a charity initiative that the Ultimate Leafs fan, Mike Wilson, is doing to raise funds for ALS. You buy one of his books, either Inside the Room or Beer League Hockey, for $20 plus shipping, and you will get a raffle ticket for some amazing prizes for next season.
Yes. So quite a few NHL teams have gotten on board with this charity initiative, including the Colorado Avalanche, Nashville Predators, and the San Jose Sharks. Those teams have offered raffle prizes of a game package that you can win for next season, which includes game tickets, a chance to go to the morning skate, and much, much more. So fans can go to the website, ultimateleafsfan.com, included in our show notes for more information. And you can also DM Mike Wilson on Facebook at the Ultimate Leafs Fan as well. And of course, it's for a great cause to find a cure for ALS. Anyway, now it's time to get into the show, and we are going to start off with a special playoff edition of the Ladies Talking Leafs Highlight Reel. And then we're going to welcome back to our show our Ladies Talking Leafs insider, Mike Augello, to talk about playoff hockey and specifically a wrap-up of the Sens series and, of course, what is our fate against the Florida Panthers. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
All right, so the highlight reel. Yeah, it's the Leafs once again came out on top on the Battle of Ontario, and we picked out the highlight reel moments for this series. It's time to roll the Ladies Talking Leafs playoff highlight reel.
All right, coming in at number 3, our friend of the show, Simon Benoit. Benny set up the overtime winner by Max Domi in game number 2 versus Senators, and he was the overtime hero himself in game number 3, wiring a shot past Sens goalie Linus Ullmark. So not known so much for his offensive game, obviously. Benny is playing a strong defensive game as well, blocking lots of shots and making big hits. So not bad for our third pairing defenseman, we think, right?
Yeah, for sure. I read that he's actually the 7th defenseman in Leafs history to score an overtime goal. So in the playoffs. So that's pretty amazing considering how long our franchise has been around. But yeah, I mean, throughout the season, he's been criticized quite a bit. I think through the media, the fans, put Philip Myers in or somebody else. And yeah, I mean, not everybody's going to be playing at the top of the game for the entire 82 games. But I don't know, you just feel comfortable, or I feel comfortable with him now as the 6th defenseman, let's just say, on our team. On the third pairing is, I don't know, all 3 pairings are excellent, but I just think that Simon Benoit has taken it to another level, and I can't wait to see him versus the Florida Panthers, because I'm sure he's going to be doing a little chirp to a few of those Panthers, including like Matthew Tkachuk or whoever's coming down on him. He's gonna make them pay, basically. Yeah, but
yeah, I think that he's kind of gotten himself into some penalty trouble at times, taking dumb penalties. And he hasn't done that in this past series. He's really taken that whole composure theme to heart. And I really feel like that's part of what's been so great about our defensive set completely is they've been so composed and just so strong in that area, but not taking those dumb penalties or anything either. And I think he's kind of built for this playoff hockey thing too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's a big dude too. When we saw him in the before in training camp, when we met him and interviewed him, it was I was kind of surprised actually how big he was. But yeah, no, he's great. He's loving being a Leaf, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Right. So coming in at number 2 is goaltender Anthony Stolarz. So in his first playoff appearance as a starting goaltender, Stolarz made key saves, and in game number 2, when the game was tied with just over a minute left, he made a huge save on Dylan Cousins, who was all alone in the slot. And Stolarz made the flashy glove save, and that gave the Leafs the chance to go to OT. But Stolarz also made highlight reel with some rough stuff in that same game number 2 when he turned into Ed Belfour by giving a few slashes to Sens forward Ridley Gregg. So that's probably more of the highlight reel because it just that really went all over the place on social media. How many times he basically slashed Ridley Gregg, but
he got away with a little bit on that somehow. Anyway,
but I mean, he's 31 years old, and to play his first playoff series ever like this, the way he did, I that's what really impressed me. Like to come in and play the way he did, and you can hear him too. Like now, all of a sudden, ever since about a month ago when the player said how he's like yelling back there, now all of a sudden I'm starting to hear him on the TV, or like he's like yelling back there, giving directions. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that they really communicate well back there. Obviously, like there's nowhere do you need that more than in the playoffs. Yeah. But I kind of like how no matter what, he seems to be the same guy, in the media afterwards, even after, the loss or whatever, he was the same. So he seems like he's got confidence in himself, and the team obviously has confidence in him. So yeah, I think, I mean, it's a little bit tricky. Obviously we're going into playing his former team who knows him well. And we also know that he's had at least, one game where he didn't fare so well against them, but he also did beat them the last time we played them. So, yeah,
he's definitely. But for the Sens series, I think he's definitely worthy of the number 2 highlight reel moment for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Coming in at number 1, we have Matthew Knies. In game number 4, Knies showed his power and speed by blowing past Sens defenseman Artem Zub on a breakaway and then roofing it over Linus Ullmark to tie the game in the second period. Unfortunately, the Leafs lost that game in OT, but Knies was the best Leaf forward on the ice and was a big contributor in the series overall as well.
Yeah. I
mean, about a guy who's built for this.
Yeah.
He is.
What can you say about this kid? Like it's just, it says something that we've picked him as number 1 over top of the core 4 that players that should have been at number 1. But he really, I don't know. I love the comment he made about being on the power play. He said, you have a lot of star talent with those 4 guys there. I've just got to park my big ass in front. That's all he said, right? So, but yeah, no, he's just a bull out there. We've said it so many times during this season, and he's just continued. He's built for playoff hockey, like you were saying, and
100%,
yeah, and he definitely was the difference maker in this series versus the Sens.
All right, so the Leafs finished off the Senators, as we know, and now it's on to round 2 versus the Florida Panthers. So to give us thoughts on the Leafs playoffs so far, we welcome to the show our Ladies Talking Leafs insider, Mike Augello.
The Leafs are on to round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and to talk about it, we are happy to have back on the show our Ladies Talking Leafs insider, Mike Augello.
Mike covers the Leafs and the NHL as a reporter and is a member of the Professional Hockey Writers Association. Mike is the co-managing editor of HockeyHotStove.com, a new website that offers all types of hockey-related content for passionate NHL fans, including tons of content on the Leafs, folks. Mike also covers the Buffalo Sabres for the Hockey News. Thanks for making the time to join us again, Mike.
Pleasure as always, ladies. Good afternoon.
Yes, he's a very busy guy, so we're very thankful you could come on the show. Okay. Yay, we Leafs are on to the second round. So first off, we want to get your thoughts on the Leafs Sens series with the Battle of Ontario done and the Leafs winning in 6 games. Did it go as you expected with the Leafs winning the series in 6 games? And
I predicted Ottawa in 7, so
yeah.
For shame, Mike. For shame.
Well, it came pretty close.
That's true.
I mean, the issue here was, and my 2 words that I have said many a time on many a podcast is show me. Show me that I think you're better than Ottawa. I thought you were better than Boston last year. Show me. And okay.
They showed you.
Well, they were but they did until they started not to. Getting up 3-0, and granted, 2 of those games were overtime. They could have gone either way. The second coming of Bobby Orr, Simon Benoit, and Max Domi scoring in overtime. So maybe it was a little bit, fortunate that they were up 3-0. But when you're up 3-0, finish them. And, I think game 4 conspired against them with the Tavares concussion spotter in overtime. They more than likely would have scored an overtime goal with Tavares out there for the full 4 minutes. Jake Sanderson scores the goal, and then that complete dog's breakfast, to use a Bill Waters term, in game 5. It was an atrocity how badly they played. But then they finished them off as they should have.
Right.
They are a better team. They are a more experienced team than the Ottawa Senators. The Ottawa Senators have good players. Should they have beaten Ottawa? Yes. Did I think that they were going to beat them? No, because I've seen one example in 20 freaking years of them winning a playoff round. So until they show me, I'm not going to believe it.
All right. And what Leaf players were the difference in the series, do you think, though? You mentioned Simon Benoit, but becoming Bobby Orr. But who are you impressed with? You had to be impressed with somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I'm a tough critic, but not that tough.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. For most of the last decade, I have said this team needs a couple, tough, defensive-minded right-hand shot defensemen to complement. Back 10 years ago it was Jake Gardner, and Morgan Riley, and then Morgan Riley. But they needed that, defensive-minded guy to partner with Morgan Riley. And I thought Brandon Carlo was extremely solid, didn't make many mistakes. The pairing of McCabe and Tanev is just sickening. I mean, they're just so good.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the type of pairing that they have not had for years. I mean, McCabe and Caberlet back in the day, they were excellent offensively, but defensively, you'd probably have to go back to guys like Dmitry Yushkevich, with under Pat Quinn, who was as solid or Robert Svala, as solid a defensive defenseman as you could get. And, these guys are under contract for a number of years. So their defense as a whole was fantastic. But that pairing of McCabe and Tanev, they didn't make many mistakes. Up front, it was funny. And some of them I'm very friendly with. But the people out there before Game 6, what the hell is Max Pacioretty doing in the lineup? Oh my God, you got to put Nick Robertson back in. Pacioretty hasn't done a damn thing. Well, hey, what happened in Game 6?
Well, that's why Berube is the coach and us Leaf fans are not.
Now,
Well, that's not the only reason, but
no.
he made good on that
Yeah.
because he stuck to his guns and moved him up. And obviously he knows stuff we don't know, right?
Well, and as we have said on previous shows, when Pacioretty was playing with Tavares and Nylander, that combination was fantastic. It's just, his health is not the best. He's not going to be able to play 82 games. If you probably had somebody under sodium pentothal, they probably would have said they sat him out the last 6 weeks just so you get healthy, completely healthy for the playoffs. And sitting out as long as he did and then coming in, there's going to be some, rust. But assisted on Nylander's goal, scored the game winner with 5:39 left to go in the third period. He came to the forefront. I can't say that the core four surprised me. They did what I expect them to do. I expect them to score. If they score, then you're living up to my expectations. If you don't score, I'm going to destroy you. And, they scored. So they get a tip of the cap. You earned your money. You did what you should have done. The line, I think, and everybody seems to be saying this, is that was fantastic, was Lorenz, Lawton, and Kyle Yarncroke. So,
and they came up big too at the end too. They've definitely laid their bodies on the line. I mean,
Yeah,
so
the block shot by Lawton late in regulation, which he got an assist for. It's like, yeah, you got an assist for getting hit by the puck. Which, hey, okay, if you get, but it worked, and Nylander got the empty netter, but he played very effectively. Lorenz is a sandpaper guy. I'm pretty sure he's earned himself a new contract with the Leafs. I'm pretty sure he wants to stay around. But that line, and Yarncroke didn't do much since he came back from injury, but I had a feeling this is a guy who was maybe sort of lying in wait that, he's a veteran guy. He's always been a contributor, that he was going to step up and do something. And that line played very well.
Well, and that's the thing with Yarncroke too. Like, he just goes out there and he just goes about his business.
Yeah,
he does not play any different on any line. Like, he just does what he does. That is a guy that definitely knows what he is, where his strengths are. He doesn't try to do too much. He just does his thing. So, and he's effective.
Yeah, and I think too with the core four, I think John Tavares was the best out of those core four, and I think the other
most consistent. What a surprise!
Yeah, but the other three need to step it up now too. Like, I mean, they played well, but I think they definitely need to. They have more in them. Let's just say.
Let's just say you would have been covering your ears with the comments that I was making about Nylander after Game 5, because that dogging that he did on the Dylan Cousins shorthanded goal was like, it was sort of like Tampa a few years ago. Remember, I think it was a Nick Paul goal or something like that in Tampa Bay, where he was just like skating in quicksand. I'm like, dude, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, this is the playoffs. You got to hustle from beginning to end. This isn't, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. making a run to first base where he's like, like this, I got to run. Yeah, like, no. You got to hustle, especially in the postseason. Marner was good the first 3 games of the series, and then he really tailed off. Now, he had some moments in terms of penalty killing, and he had an assist on Matthews' goal in game 6. But really, it was a first half, second half type of thing. I know everybody was destroying Matthews for the pass that got intercepted by Gaudette in Game 5. And nobody wants to hear the excuse. I understand it. He scored 30 some odd goals this year, down from 69. This guy is playing hurt. I don't even want to. Nobody wants to hear about it. So is Brady Tkachuk. He's playing hurt. So is Matthew Tkachuk playing hurt. Yeah.
He took ownership of it though after the game. Like, he said it was his, like, a wrong move by him to make that pass. So yeah.
But
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear after everything is said and done that he's having surgery or something like over the summer. Like, I will not be shocked by that at any
for sure.
stretch. But the thing is, though, if you're in the lineup, I don't know. I mean, maybe this is the best we're going to get out of him right now. It could be, but the goal that he did get, it still shows that he's elite. There's not too many guys that are gonna score that goal. So even if we can get one out of him like that per series and the rest of the time he's playing his amazing defense, then, I guess that's what we're just going to have to bank on that hopefully being enough out of him.
I mean, that being said, the goal, the opening goal in Game 6 was not exactly a patented Matthews howitzer. That was a CI. That was a single. That was not a home run.
No.
It was along the ice and it fit in a space about that much, but they all count the same, so they'll take them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, now the Leafs are moving on to play the Florida Panthers in the second round. From the regular season, of course, we know that the Leafs lost 3 out of 4 games to the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think the Leafs match up with the Panthers for this round?
Well, I'll break it down position by position. Goaltender, I think the Panthers have a distinct advantage. Not only do they know Stolarz because they played with him. I left Stolarz off the list of, who stood out. He got 4 victories and at times he made some big saves, but there were moments like in Game 2 when he faced, I think it was 3 shots on goal in the third period, and the first one got past him, the Adam Gaudette goal to tie the game, and then Domi scores in overtime. But, when you're facing so few shots, it's one thing when you're James Reimer and you're getting bombarded, or Ilya Samsonov and you're just getting destroyed and that's 15 shots on goal. When you're allowing 3 shots on goal in a playoff game, you expect your goalie to stop all 3 shots. So I think he was, his save percentage was .901 in the playoffs in the first round.
They're actually equal with Bobrovsky right now. Exact same numbers.
Oh, Bobrovsky against Tampa Bay, he didn't face a ton of shots. That was, the deciding factor in that series was Andrei Vasilevsky was doing his best Anton Forsberg imitation. He was a sieve. The guy had the second best year in the NHL next to Connor Hellebuyck. It must be something about playing great during the regular season and playing like dog crap in the playoffs, because Hellebuyck has played like crap, and Vasilevsky, a nominee for the Vezina, he played terribly as well, and Darcy Kemper too. All 3 of them did.
Mm-hmm.
So, there must be some correlation there. But my point is that Stolarz, he was good enough to win, and the Leaf fans will take that. But for them to beat the Florida Panthers, I'm not saying he's got to stand on his head. I think he's at least got to be the equal of Bobrovsky and maybe better than Bobrovsky. And I don't know if he can do that, because Bobrovsky can stand out in the playoffs. He did last year, especially in Game 7 against the Oilers, and did for the balance of last year in the playoffs, and he was the better of the 2 Russians in the Battle of Florida. So I think Florida wins that battle. I think the Leafs' defense is much better than Florida's defense, especially Ekblad is out Game 1 because of the suspension. Their defense took a big hit last year in free agency. They lost Montour to Seattle. They lost Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the Leafs. Forsling is great. Ekblad, when he's not taking cheap shots at Brandon Hagel, is pretty good. Nico Mikkola is a solid defensive defenseman, but then, it's Uwe Balanskis and Nate
Seth
Schmidt.
Jones they have, though.
And I was going to get to Seth Jones.
Yeah.
Seth Jones is not the Seth Jones that played in Chicago. He's been much better. And he's a big, rangy, quick defenseman, very defensively solid, physical. So, that addition was necessary, and a right-hand shot too. But they're not as deep defensively as they were. And I think that's something that the Maple Leafs can exploit. Up front, I think the Leafs are deeper, but the Panthers are dirtier. The Panthers are a bunch of slime buckets. I mean, you've got, get ready, Sunrise, throw the rats out on the ice, because that's what you got out there. Marchand, Tkachuk, Bennett, the Leafs forwards and their defense better have their head on a swivel, because as proved of what happened against Tampa Bay, they're going to try to take you out. They're going to cheap shot you. They're going to run you into the boards. They're going to do anything it takes to win. And the Leafs not only need to be ready for it, they need to be ready to respond in kind. And if they don't do that, I think they're going to get beaten soundly. But I think they have the ability to beat the Panthers. I just don't know whether they're going to.
The thing is, though, we also have the 3 players that are former Panthers, right? So that just won with them last year. So that, I think, like Craig Berube said today, that he's had some chats with like Lorentz and Augello and Stolarz, like, to find out what makes the Florida Panthers tick a little bit, things that he doesn't know, right? So I'm hoping that gives us a slight advantage, or a little bit of an advantage there. I know Matthew Tkachuk, I think it's because we watched his father back in the day. But yeah, Matthew Tkachuk, he apparently is playing injured. I read in some article in the he's still injured. I read in the Miami Herald.
You could tell. Couldn't tell. I mean, you couldn't tell based on the way he played against Tampa. I mean, ask Jake Gensel if Matthew Tkachuk was injured, because he only knocked his teeth into his throat. I mean, with the hit that he did. I mean,
but the longer this thing goes, though, the harder that is, right? I mean, but we just discussed it. We are going to have that same issue, because the longer this goes, the harder this is going to be for, a guy like Matthews on our team that is not playing 100%. I mean, I think the key, again, is going to be, Berube kept mentioning composure. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the same kind of thing. I know we want to match them but we don't want shenanigans. Like, I think I'd rather them taking the penalties than us retaliating for their cheap, cheap shots.
That's if the officials actually called the penalties.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Remember, Hagel hit Barkov in the boards. Mm-hmm. Hagel gets a 1-game suspension. Tkachuk hits Gensel. He gets a 5-minute major, because they want to get him off the ice, because they don't want any retaliation. Mm-hmm. Then, I mean, Ekblad gets suspended for 2 games for the hit on Hagel, but he knocked Hagel into tomorrow. He didn't, Hagel didn't know where he was. It was clear concussion. I mean, there was no, if they didn't call a suspension on Ekblad, people would have thought, what the hell is going on here? But normally, and I will be curious to see this, because we know what it's like, covering Toronto, being from Toronto, and seeing the reaction of not only the Leaf fan base, but the Leafs media when things occur against them, like Gretzky high-sticking Gilmore in 93 and not being called. If Sam Bennett pulls the same crap that he did like 2 years ago when he...
I was just going to mention that, because...
when he ran Matthew Nyes into the boards and nothing gets called...
Yeah.
Come on. I mean,
but then, I'm hoping too that Matthew Nyes has learned from that too. Like, this is 2 years later now. He's a little bit older. Like, that's the thing. Like, these guys have got to, he's got to have learned from that, right?
I would hope so.
Be ready for that kind of goonery.
Don't you think too, like, the games that the Panthers, like, that we played against the Panthers in the regular season, we basically lost on the special teams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is going to be a key here.
And
for sure.
Like we're talking about, we got to stay out of the box ourselves.
Well, their power play is excellent, but their penalty killing. I mean, Sam Reinhart scored 5 shorthanded goals. And if there was one thing that scared me about the series against Ottawa is, and I've been saying this all year, the 5-forward power play scares the crap out of me, because, Mitch Marner on that 2-on-1, he took away nothing. He didn't take away the pass, and he didn't take away the path to the net. So Gaudette feathers it over to Dylan Cousins, and he one-times it past Stolarz. He's not a defenseman. I mean, that power play is much more effective with the 5 forwards than with Morgan Rielly. But I think Morgan Rielly would know how to play that 2-on-1 a lot better than Mitch Marner does. And
it'll be interesting to see if they make a change there. with regards to that, because like we can't be beat on shorthanded goals. Like when we have the man advantage, right?
That's for
just
sure.
going to be deadly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the key, as you said earlier, one is composure. If you look at some of the games, like the first game in Toronto, where Max Domi punches Sam Bennett, and then Bennett jumps all over him, and they get into a fight, and Bennett, caught him early, and he, it was not a very good fight. I mean, Max Domi didn't have an opportunity to even get his hands up, and it was just sort of bolo punching him. But that all started because Domi punched him in a scrum, and that stuff gets caught. That stuff gets caught by and normally it's the guy who retaliates, not the guy who initiates. So I shake my head because I have said this a couple times, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it, is that now they're going to start game 1 of the series with the same lineup that they started in game 6 against the Senators. But if it's like game 1 against Ottawa and they're going crazy and they're running around,
I think I know where you're headed.
Number 75 to be in the lineup. and this is where Ryan Reeves is useful. And I relayed that, and this story very well. 93, game 1, Kings Leafs. Why did Marty McSorley try to take out Doug Gilmour? Because Wendell Clark was going at Gretzky. And McSorley told the Leaf bench, you keep going at Wayne, I'm going to take out Gilmour. And then he tried to, and then that's when McSorley and Clark dropped the gloves. Fast forward a year, Pat Quinn is sending Gino Ojic to go at Gilmour, who I think had an ankle injury early in the playoffs against, I think it was San Jose. He blocked a shot and he was like at 50%, but he was still Gilmour and he was still fantastic. But he was sending Gino Ojic against Gilmour and trying to knock him out of the series.
Yeah.
And Wendell Clark goes to the Canucks bench and said, you go at Gilmour one more time. And he points at Pavel Bure and says, that bleepity bleep is dead.
Yeah.
Ryan Reeves is not going to make a difference if he says, hey, Nico Mikkola, let's drop the gloves. No. If in game 1, Sam Bennett goes at Matthew Nyes or Tavares or Marner or one of the Leaf stars, the order from Craig Berube to Ryan Reeves in the locker room before game 2 is, that guy Sam Reinhart, take him out. Because that's the only way you're going to stop the Panthers from running at Leaf star players is mutually assured destruction. You want to go down this road? Okay, we'll go. That's the only way. Nobody thinks hockey is like that anymore, but it is. It is still like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I guess if Reeves then does get suspended, then it's...
Yeah, who cares?
Who cares?
Okay.
It doesn't matter, really.
Yeah.
No.
Who cares?
Yeah.
MLS&E will pay for the fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's do that. Going back to the goaltending, you were talking about the start there, saying that you thought the Panthers had the advantage, I guess, with Bobrovsky. Do you think there's any chance that Joseph Woll gets in this series?
Chris, it's so shocking that you said that because that's exactly what I'm writing today at hockeyhotstove.com.
Oh, we'll have to save it then, I guess.
Because I'm saying they're obviously going to start with Stolarz because Stolarz won the series against Ottawa. But there were some instances, like I said, where he faced very little shots and let in goals. I don't know if I can blame him for the David Perron goal in game 6, but, going off the back of his head or going off over his shoulder, or whatever it was, It's
just that he hasn't played this many games.
Right. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And he was starting to look tired.
No. And with fatigue, and it's going to be, the Panthers are going to be buzzing. They're going to be, So do I think there's a chance that Wall gets in this series? Yes, I do. And, he has the experience of playing against this team, actually a better version of this team a couple years ago in the playoffs.
Yeah,
So,
and he might have beaten them too.
Yeah,
If it wasn't for that last game.
Yeah,
he was on a roll against them.
Yeah, he was.
40 saves in that overtime game. And of course, all we remember is that stupid Radko Gudas photo of him yelling in his face.
Yeah.
But he played very good in a win. He got the only win in the series, and he played very good in the series clincher for the Panthers. So do I think Joseph Wall can step in and play very well as he has at times this year? Yes. I think Berube is probably going to stick with Stolarz as long as they're winning and as long as he's playing at a certain level. But if they get, and I'm not predicting this, but if they lose the first 2 games at home, I would think Wall's playing in game 3 going back to Sunrise because they have to change some things up. But he's going to stick, just like he stuck with Pacioretty, he's going to stick with his guys until he can't stick with his guys.
I don't know. I was thinking that they would give Wall the first game, actually. I just thought that, I know that Stolarz, obviously, he won the previous series, but I just thought, maybe just give him that extra game that night to relax a little bit, and he could come back in game 2. I know I don't know. I guess people say that the whole rotation thing doesn't
opening itself up to so much criticism. If you start Joseph Wall in game 1 against the Panthers and he gets lit up for 6, then my good buddy Steve Simmons or some of the scribes in Toronto would say, what got it? What were you doing?
Yeah. Well, like Sil said, we're not the coaches, right? We're not Craig Berube. That's why he gets paid the big bucks to make the decision. But yeah, no, I think Wall has played particularly well against the Panthers when he's faced them. So I wouldn't have any issues if he had to come in like at some point. But for now, Anthony Stolarz is doing quite well, actually. I like his poke check comment the other day. About, he was a bit horny on the poke check.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. But
I just think that no matter who's in net, they have to protect the crease there because they're going to be crashing for sure.
Now, I don't know whether they're going to be doing the same thing as Ridley Gregg and trying to take out Stolarz's knee like he did. And that's the reason why Stolarz got away with essentially trying to do a Paul Bunyan on Gregg's neck. I think everybody in the league would probably be sending baskets of, to, like flower baskets and fruit baskets to Anthony Stolarz saying, thank you for eliminating this rat. But, I don't know whether Florida will do that, but I don't put anything past this team. They're interested in one thing, winning, and they'll do anything. Brad Marchand would knock his brother through the glass to get a victory. So I don't think that they're going to, just because they're friends with Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Steven Lorenz and Stolarz, I don't think that's going to matter a good.
No, it doesn't matter to them either, like to either side. No. They don't care about that. They're
they'll say their sorries in Handshake Alley after they've beaten the Leafs in 5 or something.
Okay, well, speaking of that, that just moves us to the next time. So it is prediction time then. So who wins? How many games? I have one follow-up after this too.
Okay. I'm predicting Florida in 6 games.
Okay.
I think the Leafs will be in the series. I think they'll have opportunities, and they'll have to take advantage of the opportunity. This team is not going to give them a ton of opportunities. They went through Tampa Bay like a hot knife through butter. They shut down Kucherov. They knocked out Hagel. They made Vasilevsky look silly. And Maurice outcoached John Cooper. Not to say that Berube can't stick with Paul Maurice. This is a team that has been hardened by the crucible of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and they got to the Stanley Cup final 2 years ago. They got against Vegas, and they won. They won last year. So, this is this is a team that is, I mean, they're not as strong a team as they were last year because of all the defections via free agency. But they added Seth Jones and they added Marchand, so they're stronger than they were at the beginning of the season. And the Leafs, there's not going to have a lot of room for mistakes, and they're going to need good goaltending and good special teams for them to be able to beat them.
Okay, follow up then. If the Leafs were to win, who would have to be, or what would have to be the X factor for them to get over the top, get over this, Panthers hump?
I think three things would have to happen. One, as I said before, Stolarz or Wall would have to either out goaltend or be on par with Bobrovsky. Two, their power play would have to play as they did in the first 3 games against Ottawa, because really scoring 3 power play goals against Ottawa in game 1 stopped all the bull crap. It stopped Ridley Gregg from running around at least a little bit. It stopped them taking cheap shots after. They thought they could intimidate the Leafs, and the Leafs got the power plays, and the power plays they scored. And basically, it's like, we can't do this because the Leafs power play is going to kill us. And then they didn't score. I think it was 7 power plays in a row, and then they finally scored a big goal in game 6. But if the Leafs power play is working and doesn't give up shorthanded goals, that will maybe quell a bit of the rambunctiousness of the Florida Panthers. And the third thing is the core's got to score. They just have to. If they don't, what's your fallback? You're going to expect Bobby McMahon to score 7 goals in a 7 games. It's like you need Marner, Matthews, Nylander, and Tavares to score even strength and on the power play. And if they don't do that, that Tkachuk will, that Verhaeghe and Reinhart and Barkov will, because they always do. So you're going to have to stop their guys from scoring, and your guys who their big job is to score are going to have to score.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Is there any one player in particular that you think could emerge as giving the Panthers a little bit of trouble?
Well, if he does avoid the the Sam Bennett knockout punch or not a check from behind, Matthew Knies is a baby Huey. He's just a bull in a china shop. He's strong. He's a lot stronger than he was 2 years ago. And we've seen who was it? Zach Whitecloud from Vegas, when Whitecloud knocked him out, and then the next time Vegas came to town, he dropped the gloves with him and tuned him up. Knies is still a little vulnerable. He still seems to be open to getting his clock cleaned with a hit, but I think he's more aware than he was. And if Marner and Matthews, are not able to score, Knies has shown the ability. He scored 3 goals in 6 games. So, he seems to not shrink from the responsibility of scoring in the playoffs. So I think he could be a difference maker.
Yeah. I think Mitch Marner too has to, it's all about him right now too. When it comes to the contract and all that.
Daddy Mitchie?
Daddy Mitchie, yes. Congratulations to
Marner did they have their baby? I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah.
Oh, good for him. Good
they
for them.
Yesterday they had a baby boy, and
he needed an excuse to get out of practice.
Yeah.
That's tough though. At least they're going to be home for the first little bit, but wow.
Yeah. But no, I think he has to definitely take it to another level for this series, and it's trying to be close to Doug Gilmour.
Well,
playing.
We know how open Mitch has made himself to criticism this year. The 100 points didn't matter. Great. That's wonderful. That's a selling point for your resume on July the 1st. If you are going to shop your wares on the open market. But after the game on Saturday, where Mikko Rantanen takes over the third period in that series,
that was insane. Oh my
God! The revenge tour of Mikko Rantanen in that first round was holy crap.
Right, but
that is his comparable.
Right, but remember this:
Yeah.
Mitch Marner, because he didn't want to waive his no move clause, could have been traded to Carolina for Mikko Rantanen. And you see what Mikko Rantanen did in the playoffs. And if Mitch Marner does and just like doesn't, no, he had 8 points, but he had a goal. It's not, like I did a previous podcast this morning and there's well, don't attack Mitch Marner. He had 8 points. He had 1 goal and he was a disappearing act the last 3 games of that series. You need him. You need Mr. 100 point to make a difference.
You need to notice him. The puck has to be on his stick, on a string.
For sure, because that's exactly what you saw when you were watching Mikko Rantanen against his former team. He basically dismantled those guys. And those guys are like, that is an all-star team pretty much, the Colorado Avalanche, right? So yeah, 100%. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's a joke.
It has to be noticeable.
It's an absolute joke. I continue to say this, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The NHL playoff system is a joke. The fact that Dallas and Colorado played in the first round, the fact that Tampa Bay and Florida played in the first round, the fact that Edmonton and LA played for the 4th time in a row because we're stuck with this divisional playoff crap. I mean, my God, go back to 1-8. There's still a possibility of divisional matchups in a 1-8 format, but you keep, all you do is like it's boring after a while. The Leafs play Tampa or Boston every single year. It's boring.
Yeah, no, it was definitely refreshing to play the Senators this time, and the Leafs. They did that because they got first in the division, first place in the Atlantic. So good for them. And so good for them. And I mean, they should have finished it sooner. I agree with you that way. Hope they should have finished it in 5 games. But yeah, no, they got it done in 6, and now we're off to face the Florida Panthers.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, thank you once again for being our guest. And hockey fans, be sure to check out hockeyhotstove.com, and you can hear more of Mike's Leaf views on the Leafs Convo podcast as well. He's also host of Off the Post Radio covering the NHL, and you can find both shows on hockeyhotstove.com and YouTube. If you don't follow Mike on X, make sure you do. He's at Mike in Buffalo, and also Hockey Hot Stove at Hockey H Stove. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks again to Mike for coming on the show. And I found it interesting, his comments about Ryan Reeves. Wow, you never know.
I know. I never thought, I didn't really think he was going to pull that one out, but but he's got a good point there, though. Like in the fact that, if he does play, they have to pull that out of the hat. Like it
at least it's there. It's there. That option is there, which I kind of like that. I didn't even think of that. So, but that's why he's our insider, right? He comes up with
absolutely.
And the other thing that I guess that he mentioned is about Bobrovsky. He really, I guess, Mike really only. It seemed like it was only the goaltending that really, because he likes our defense, and the forwards kind of they cancel each other out. Let's just say, he's not sold on Stolarz. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, so I mean, if we can get to Bob there a little bit, and I mean, we'll have to, obviously the forwards are going to have to take some shots in front of the net there, but whatever, it's playoff time, that's what you got to do, and that may be the difference for the Leafs. I mean,
it could be, because, and the thing is that Bobrovsky, as great as he is, he can disappear for stretches. Yeah. I mean, that happened, obviously they won the cup with him last year, but the year before that, when they went to the cup final, seemed like he was unbeatable. But then he actually just took a nosedive in that series and they lost. And part and parcel because he just couldn't stop anything in that series.
Yeah. And they're right now, they're even, like, between Stolarz and Bobrovsky. I guess they both have, after the first series, 2.21 goals against average, and both have a .901 save percentage. So I don't know.
Well, like he said, the big guns have to produce, and they have to get to them. Over it goes is going to go largely to, how Berube,
The Berube buy-in.
The Berube buy-in, exactly.
Yes.
What you're talking about before. It's going to be the same thing here. And they're going to have to be composed and trust the process.
Yeah.
And that's it. They're just going to have to really, Florida's game is all about them getting you off of yours, capitalizing on your mistakes.
Yeah. I think it's going to
have to be on point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to, and the less penalties we take, I think is going to be huge.
100%.
And hopefully the refs won't screw us over that way and actually call the penalties the way they should be called. And and our power play has to be clicking. Like we got to get, whether it's like Mike was saying, it might be better to have Morgan Riley on the back end, but however it's decided, whether they stick with the 5 forwards, like they gotta capitalize. And if we can continue to do the scoring within 10, 15 seconds of starting the power play, like we did in the Senator series, that would be the best. That would be really good. But we'll see what happens. The thing that I'm
concerned about with, like, I just, the way Florida has played us the last few games, and the fact that, we've even seen too in this past series with the Senators that Stolarz can be beat on those long range shots with traffic in front. I'm kind of worried about that because that is the tactic that they did use against us so far, is those big bombs from far out. So I think we got to get in front of them up there and not give them time to wind up like that,
Yeah.
So
and we can't get into that cycle game either, like down low. That's where they basically, that's their bread and butter there in the corners and everything like that. We got to get it. We got to take it from our D zone, get it out quick, and start and moving it out to the O zone, and no sitting back either if we have the lead. So anyways, we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. And we'll be back next week with another playoff edition of Ladies Talking Leafs. Hit that follow button wherever you're listening to our show and don't miss an episode. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And you can also find us on the Believe Network at Believe.com. We would also love to hear from you. Be sure to leave us a rating or review. Feedback from our listeners, like we said off the top of the show, is so important. And we thank you for taking the time.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at Ko-fi.com. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. You can find the link to our Ko-fi page in our show notes or on any of our social media profile pages.
And thank you, as always, to our healthcare workers and first responders for everything that they do.
And we thank you, as always, for listening and watching Ladies Talking Leafs. Till next time, go Leafs, go.
Do you believe?